Hello there, my name is Jado Glucki, and I am the Development Manager at Horizons International, where we sell our Quality Essential Suite product called QES. Yesterday I helped out a customer with a more complicated scenario that involved 3 tests that they run on a particular item class within their inventory. And I'd like to show you what we did so you can have a better understanding of the different options Quality Essentials can provide to handle even the more complicated testing scenarios. The interesting part of this scenario is that 2 of the 3 tests have exactly the same criteria, and the 3rd test criteria was different for every single item. They also needed to create hundreds of items in just a few days, so the faster the process, the better. To get started, we need to set up 3 tests, some items, inspections, and finally some criteria for both the tests and the items. Then we'll use the all-in-one results entry window to make sure that everything is working properly. Lastly, I'll show you how to copy all of the information and change the criteria on that last test in order to speed up adding new inspections to items. We'll execute some tests to show that everything is working properly after that copy. So the first thing we have to do is set up some initial data. The color code test will use a system code list. So let's create the list in the user-defined parent code entry form and then the details in the system code entry form. So we go to the system, user list, parent entry, I say new, and this is the color code status, color code status. Okay, and I say save. Okay, so now what I do is I open up the system code entry form and I go to that new color code status that I created and I add some entries for the system code list. So I say new, and the first one is going to be meets standard. The color code tested meets specifications. Okay, so order 1, save, and then I create the other one, which is if it fails the standard. So fails standard. The color code status failed to meet specifications. Okay, so this. I'll put this one in the second one in the list. Okay, so now that we have the color code statuses set up, we need to just make sure that we also need Fahrenheit and ounce for unit of measures. So in order to check for the Fahrenheit and unit of the Fahrenheit and ounce, so unit of measure. And there's degrees Fahrenheit, and there's ounces. So we already have those units of measures, so we don't need to do anything. Okay. So the next step is to create the 3 tests, and we're going to be creating heat resistance, which tests to make sure that the new coffee cup can handle the amount of heat required. We're going to create a volume test, which the user tests to make sure that the volume of the cup is within 6 ounces. And lastly, we're going to create the color code test, which they do a visual test to make sure that the cup is the correct color. So what we do is we go into the test form and we say new. So the test code is going to be heat resistance. Can the cup handle a certain amount of heat? Okay, sample size is specific amount values. Sample size amount is 1. The data type is a number, and the decimals are going to be 0. Okay, the unit of measure is going to be degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so that's that's it for that test. So I'm going to save. Now let's create a new one called volume. How many ounces can the cup hold? Okay, sample, specific amount values, and it's 1. Data type is a number type test. The only thing is we're gonna have 2 decimal places for this test. Okay, and the unit of measure is ounces. Okay, so save. So the last test we're going to create is the color code, and we're going to use a system code list. So I say new color code. What is the color of the cup? Okay, the sample size is specific amount values. Sample size is 1. The data type this time is system code list. Okay, and the system code is the color code status. So that means that when we test this, it's going to ask us for what is the value of the color code, and the color code status has those 2 meets standards and fails standards system code list values. Okay, so we're going to save that. So there are many different ways that we could create the test for the color code. If the amount of colors that you have are very limited, you could create a system code list. So you actually pick, instead of just color code status, it would really just be color code. And then in the color code system code list, you'd have red, white, black, yellow, blue, your different colors. The other way to do it is if the color code was a number, then you could create a number type test and record the exact color number in the value field. So this is really a simple option, and we'll move forward. So let's create the white coffee cup item and 3 lot numbers. So I go into items, and I click on the new button. So I say new, and I'm going to say white cup. This is the white coffee cup, and it's going to be lot tracked. So then I save this item, and then I go to attach serial lots, and I say white 01. The lot quantity is going to be 3, and the quantity created is going to be 3. Expiry date, or date received, is today. Expiry date is, let's say, the 31st, and I process. So now I've created these 3 lots, and then I add them to the item, and I click save. We're good for that. So let's create the inspection called on receipt and attach the white cup item number to that inspection, as well as the 3 new tests to that inspection. So I go to master data, I open up the inspection entry form, and I click new, and this is called on receipt. Tests to be completed when items are received in shipping. Okay, that's pretty much all the information we need here, so we hit save. So now we go to the inspection tests, and we find our heat resistance test. We find our volume test, and finally we find the color code test. Okay, and we add them to the inspection. Okay, and we click save. So now we want to add the white cup to this inspection. So when the white cup is delivered, we can test it. So white cup and add. Okay, you'll notice that I'm using this filter field quite a lot. It really speeds up being able to select items from a list. You simply type in what you want, so 100, and it finds all items that have the number 100 in it. You know, if I typed in the white, oh, right, white cup doesn't exist in that list anymore because it's attached to the inspection. All right, so I click save. So I've created the inspection for the white cup. Now let's go back to the item entry, and I want to add the specifications to the item. So I click on the white cup and I go to specifications. So these three tests exist on a particular inspection that has the item attached to it. So I'm going to add these three tests to the specification. So add, and add. Okay, you can assign different categories and sort orders, but for this purposes, I'm just going to leave everything the same. So I click save. All right, so we're done setting up that item, including specifications. So let's work on the criteria next. So I close these things and I go to my criteria entry. So we have two tests that have the same criteria and then one test that has item specific criteria. So the first one we're going to create is called, so new, it's the heat resistance criteria. So cup heat resistance. And handle. Okay, it's a number. The cup heat resistance has to be at least 250 degrees. So our ideal number is 250 degrees. If it can be between, 100 and 300, then you would put a positive tolerance of 50 and a negative tolerance of 100 or 150. Then when it was being tested, it can only be between those two. But really, our coffee cup, the more heat it can handle, the better. So I'm not going to put an upper limit on this amount, but the lower limit is going to be 10 degrees. So the unit of measure is degrees Fahrenheit. Okay. So I save that. And then the next one is the volume. So I'm going to say new, and I'm going to say cup volume. And the volume has to be equal to or larger than 6 ounces. Equal to or larger than 6 ounces. Okay, it's a number. The ideal number is 6. The positive tolerance, again, it's going to be, plus or minus 0.1 ounce. So 0.1 and 0.1. All right, and the unit of measure is ounces. Okay, so I save that criteria. So the last one is the color code status. So the cup white color code, is the cup white. Okay, so the data type is not number. The data type is system code list, and then the system code type is the color code status. Okay, the ideal value is that it meets the standard. Okay, so in this particular case, that's how that's set up. There is no unit of measure for system code list, so then we're done. So I click on save. So now this is where things start to get a little more complicated, but once you understand the basic concepts, it's fairly easy to set up. So what we want to do is use the criteria test link form to attach the two tests that have the same criteria. So no matter what item comes through the shipping receiving dock, those two tests are going to have the same criteria, and that's the heat resistance and the volume. The other test is item specific. So when red cups come through shipping receiving, we want to test against red criteria, and when white cups come through the shipping receiving, we want to test against the white criteria. So let's open the criteria test link form and create the first two relationships. So I go to criteria test link and I click there to add a new row, and I say the test code, the first one is the heat. So I just type into heat here, and then it comes up with my heat resistance test, and then the criteria is going to be cup heat resistance. Okay, so I click save. Now the next test criteria relationship that we want to do is the volume. So I'm going to take volume, okay, and the criteria is going to be the cup volume. Okay, so I'm matching this test with this criteria, and then I click save. So that was pretty easy. Let's open up the criteria item, the test criteria item matching form. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be attaching a particular test and criteria to an item. So the item is going to be white cup. The test code is going to be the color code. And the criteria on this is we want the white cup color code. Okay? Is the cup white? So we're going to save that. So everything is created now and linked up. So let's open the all-in-one results entry and do some testing. And I'll show you how all of this fun stuff works. Okay, so I'm going to go to transactions, all-in-one results. And I'm going to say new. And my item number is the white cup. Okay, the inspection is going to be on receipt. And I'm going to pick one of the lot numbers that I created for that white cup. All right. So now I'm going to click create tests. And what it does is it looks at all of the tests that are assigned to that inspection. So the 3 that we have. And now I can start entering in my information. So we're testing a cup, and it's going to be 245 degrees that this cup can handle. And it passes because it hasn't reached the lower threshold. The volume is going to be, let's say, 6.02 or 03 ounces. And then the color code is meet standard. Okay, so now it's asking, because all of the tests are filled in, it's asking me to move the history, and I'll say yes. So one of the things that we can do now in the new version is automatically create a COA for this particular testing. So I'm just going to click create COA. And the beauty of this functionality is that it automatically sets the details of white cup. It also, in the to process serial lots columns, it's already added the serial number that we tested. So here are all of the results of that testing, and we're creating a certificate of analysis to send to the customer. So I'll click on preview, and here's our certificate, which we can export as an email or export it to a certain file format. All right, so that's the certificate. So I'm going to close this. So we've created the certificate. Now we have a new item coming into inventory, and it's called the red cup. Okay, so we don't want to have to go through that process all over again in order to create the red cup. We've already set everything up for the white cup, so let's show you the quick process to add the red cup to inventory and testing. So I'm going to close this. Okay, I'll leave these two open. So I'm going to go to operational data and I'm going to create the red cup. So I go into items and I say new, and the item number is red cup. This is the red cup. Item tracking type is lot, and I hit save. And then quantity to create 3, starting number red 01, lot quantity is 3, date received is today, expiry date is in 2 weeks, and I hit process. And then I add it to the item. So now I've just added some basic serial lot number, or some lot numbers to the red cup. Okay, so now I hit save. Now that's about as far as I need to go for creating the item. I'm not going to add any specifications. I'm not going to add it to the inspection. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the inspection copy form to copy the information. So I go to the item inspection copy. Okay, the old item is the white cup. The new item is the red cup. Okay, I want to copy the criteria as well as copying the item specifications. Okay, so I'm going to check off the on receipt and I'm going to hit add. That's it. That's all I have to do. So let's go see what this did. So if you look at the inspection form, actually let's close these to make it cleaner. Okay, so if you look at the inspection form, if we look at the on receipt inspection, it still has the same tests. The difference is though, it now has the red cup attached to that inspection. Okay, so let's open up the test criteria matching form, and these two are the same because they're still linked up and nothing changes for those. But if you go into the test criteria item matching, you'll see that red cup unfortunately is attached to the white color code because it copied the criteria from the white cup. But this is really easy to change. So what we want to do is we want to create the red cup criteria. So I go into criteria entry and I say new, and this is the so I want to keep my standards the same. So really this is going to be cup red color code. So cup red color code, and then where's the cup? Is the cup white? So is the cup red? This is a system code list. The system code type is color code status, and the ideal is that it meets the standard. Okay, so that's all we have to do to create the criteria. So now what we do is we can hit refresh. So now that we've refreshed, we want to attach this, instead of the white color code, we want to attach it to the red color code. All right, and then we hit save. And now let's test our changes. So we say save, close, close. Let's close all this stuff so that it's all nice and fresh. Okay, so we go to transactions, all-in-one results, and we say new. The item number is red cup, and the inspection is on receipt. The lot number is red 01, and we say create tests. Okay, so we have heat resistance. So whether it's a red or white cup, the heat resistance is the same. So it automatically says 250 and 240. So I'm going to say this is 300. Okay, the volume, again, the volume is the same. 6 ounces plus or minus 0.1 1 ounce. So this is, 6 ounces. And then the last one is the cup red color code, that it meets the standard. Okay, so it's a different criteria for the red cup versus the white cup. So this tells the user that they have to test it against the red color code. All right. And then we hit save. It's moved it into history. We can create the certificate for that red cup, and we are done. So in this video, I've shown you how to create inspections, assign tests and criteria to those inspections, as well as copying details from one item to another. Just as a little bonus, I want to show you the item specifications for the red cup. So if I go to operational data and items, you'll notice that if I go the red cup, the specifications for the red cup have automatically been copied over. And that occurred when we did the the inspection item copy process. So now that I'm going to be sending this out to customers, they want a basic specifications form. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to reports and item specifications. And I'm going to create a new specification, and this is red cup specs. These are the non-customer related testing specifications. Okay. You can pick a report layout if you build one, because if you send it to the customers, you want it to look nice. This one is non-customer specific, so I'm going to pick an item, which is cup. So the red cup. Okay, you can sell as an item code if you want, if you have customer specific items. And then I'm going to generate lines. So what the generate lines does, generate lines, there we go. So what it does is it looks at all of the tests that are attached to the item on the specifications tab, right here. Okay, these three, and it automatically creates your item specifications. So then you can preview it. Oh, I have to save. So now I want to preview it. So this is my item specification report, and it's non-customer specific. As well, you can change the layout of this and make it look pretty. Right now we're just showing basic information. And so it tells you that, what's the color of the cup, and that it meets standards. The cup can handle a certain amount of heat. Min max 240 is the minimum. There's no maximum. And how many ounces can the cup hold? So 6 ounces, the minimum is 5.9 and 6.1. So this item specification report is very handy. The other thing you can do is you can finalize it. So if you finalize it, it means that you can't make any changes to it. Okay. So now I'm going to save this, and I am going to close. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.